What up, Rafa leaders? Welcome back to my channel. We're on Camp Street. This is Camp Street between New Market Street. You just crossed over New Market Street. Right, that's New Market Street. We just looked at Shantas. One of the earlier videos that I made talked about Shantas, where as schoolboys at QC, we'd leave here at lunchtime, come down to Shantas and get liquid lunch. I wasn't one of those guys who got liquid lunch, but I know some of my classmates did. Come back drunk in the afternoon. Here is Copa Airlines. That's one of the Central American airlines from Panama, I believe. And you can get flights from Georgetown to Panama. That is Tamari Airport to Panama. This is a new building that's been under construction for more than a year now here on Camp Street. It is probably going to be one of those business places to lease space for business here on Camp Street. They have been stalled in construction for a while. The construction here has been stalled for a while, but I think it's certainly at the point where it can be completed in a few months whenever they decide to do so. And the other side, there is the headquarters. This is the head office for Deara Bank. They actually have a interesting bit of architecture on this building. It is a bank. It is in fact part of the banking region of the country, banking region of the city. What do you call it? Bank. Business district, the banking district of the country, the business banking district of Georgetown. So this is still part of the business district, the banking district of Georgetown on Camp Street, all along Camp Street. The building behind here, that's going to be an 8-story or 9-story building, depending on how you count the floors. And they're putting glass all along the roof. But the one in front is the one that is most story, the one that has a major story behind it. We're going to talk about that in a second. On the other side, that's Enet. That's now one of the internet service providers in Guyana, in Georgetown, competing with a number of other service providers, internet providers. But over here, this building is controversial because the money to construct this building was embezzled from the government of Guyana, a private citizen who was working at, I believe, the communications office, the NCN, or one of these other communications offices in Guyana, embezzled millions of dollars, perhaps even billions, to construct this building. So it has always been controversial and it remains empty. I remember the Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana wanted to rent this building as a downtown campus for the University of Guyana, but he was not familiar with the controversy surrounding the building, and thankfully it never materialized, never happened. Here we are at Lamaha Street. Right, that's Lamaha Street. Traffic on Lamaha Street on it's Friday morning, and Camp Street is heading north. That's Camp Street traffic heading south. Apparently they're going to be making some changes here, adding some cameras. But here at Lamaha and Camp Street is that infamous building. And next door to it is the new building. I think it used to be the Ministry of... What ministry? We'll take a closer look at it in a second. Let's see. So this building, like I said, is controversial because it was built with embezzled funds. Right, it was built with embezzled funds, and that made it controversial in the sense that nobody would touch it. Right, nobody wanted to touch that building. Let's go further north so we can take a closer look at it. Ahead of us is Cowan Street. Did a walk along Cowan Street. It's rather hurried. We did a walk along Cowan Street in the previous video. You take a look at that. But here it is from the embankment. This is what these buildings look like. So first of all, you can see how narrow those buildings are. But this building was supposed to be, or the Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana wanted to rent this building to be the downtown campus for the University of Guyana. No doubt he was mimicking what was being done by universities in New York, in the New York area, where a lot of the universities thought they would expand access to education in New York by creating downtown campuses. So I believe Long Island University built a downtown campus in Brooklyn, and Stony Brook University put a campus in Brooklyn or in Queens, somewhere in New York City, and so on. So the Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana came from the US and thought he would implement that. A lot of what he tried to do was basically copy what he had been doing in the US. Some of it had failed in the US, and so one of the reasons why I left the University of Guyana is because of all the failed policies that he was trying to implement here. But next door, you can see this is a new building. What is interesting with this one is that they've put a glass wall. A lot of buildings have been implementing glass or acrylic walls, but this one has gone with complete transparent glass. We're gonna wait to see how that is implemented, because hanging the glass, unless it's structural glass, could require some skill. Don't know if they've got the skill to do it. We'll see over time, because you don't want glass falling off of the building after it's completed. So how many floors? By my count, if you count the ground floors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Counting the top floor, it's 9 floors on the ground floor. Next door is the Ministry of Health. This is an annex of the Ministry of Health, this blue building. So I'm not so sure if the two buildings are related, whether this new building is related to the building next door and it's part of the Ministry of Health complex. But this is what the building looks like now. They've put glass walls on it, glass panels on it, and eventually I suppose we will see how that gets implemented all around. If they put the glass all around the building, what it means is you're probably going to have to use curtains to block out some of the light and get some privacy inside the building. But this is what's happening here. It's an interesting new application, implementation of design and construction in Guyana. There's a time when people would say that you couldn't build tall buildings in Guyana. Well, there are a lot of tall buildings going up now. The one next door was only, what, 5 stories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories tall, maybe 6 if you count the top floor. And at one point that was the highest people thought buildings could be built, but now this is a 9-story building, and there are a lot more like that going up. The hotels are also quite tall. So this is the old train line embankment. As I said in the previous video, they've converted this embankment into a park and parking lot, and that's what's been happening with all of the train line embankments in the last year or so. I'm still arguing that we should rebuild the train line. It doesn't necessarily have to be in this particular location, but it would be convenient if they had decided to build it here to utilize the right-of-way that was already here. In other words, this strip of land was already unoccupied and should have been used to rebuild the train line. That's my opinion. In future, if they wanted to do it now, they would have to build it elevated. In other words, they'd have to put it up on stilts so it's 20 or 30 feet in the air. But this is what the old embankment has become. They've actually turned it into a garden of sorts. So this is the train line, Lamha Street embankment, train line road that has been turned into a parking lot, and a garden, fountains and plantings. So on the other side, north of this embankment, that is Kingston, and the road you're looking at in front of us, that is Cowan Street, which we saw in a previous video. On the south side, this is Cummingsburg, and this is Lamaha Street in Cummingsburg. That's the building we were looking at a minute ago. Cummingsburg. This is Waterloo Street in Cummingsburg. They've built this walkway down the center of the avenue, but in doing so they closed up there are drains on either side of the walkway. They closed up the drains here, as you can see. So whenever it rains now, this side of Waterloo Street, that is the east side of Waterloo Street, floods because the water has nowhere to go. They closed up the drains. They kept the drain open on the north side, I believe, on the west side, I believe. But wherever they've closed up the drains, that's the problem that they've caused. That's it, guys. That's what's up. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening in the fastest growing country in the world, Guyana. Later!